to this webinar on Muslim climate leadership and the climate negotiations. Over the past several years, we've seen a slow and consistent rise in levels of Islamic leadership on the environment, with a really significant and important development in that regard taking place last August in Istanbul with the issuance of the Islamic Declaration on Global Climate Change, followed soon after by the formation of the Global Muslim Climate Network. And we're really fortunate this evening to have a number of leaders here who've been integral to all of those steps forward. And I'm going to introduce our moderator for this evening, Nana Firman, in just a moment. Just a couple of housekeeping notes. This webinar is being recorded, and all who've registered will receive the link for the recording. The lines of all of the people except the speakers are muted so that we can get the best sound quality possible. And the order of topics that we'll cover tonight, there'll be an introduction from Nana Firman, presentations by Imam Zaid Shakir and Imam Saffet Catovic, a little bit of time for questions and answers before closing. And so what I'd like to do without any further ado, is to introduce Nana Firman, whose picture and whose bio sketch you see there on the slide. Nana is Indonesian. She currently lives in California. She's a Green Faith Fellow and the coordinator of Green Faith's Muslim outreach. She's got a lengthy resume in terms of environmental stewardship and justice work. She worked for a number of years for WWF in green reconstruction in Indonesia and areas affected by the tsunami, has been an associate of the Islamic Foundation on Ecology and Environmental Sciences, Haj Fazlun Khalid's wonderful organization in the UK. And she's written and speaks regularly about these issues. So Nana, it's great to have you with us. Thank you so much for all of your work. And I'm going to unmute you. Can you hear us okay, Nana?
Yes, yes.
Great. It's all yours.
Okay. Thank you, Reverend Fletcher. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim, in the name of God, the most compassionate and the most merciful. So I greet you all with our greetings, our Muslim greeting, Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be all upon you. So first of all, I'm thankful that we have this opportunity to talk about the most important thing. As we all know that next week we're going to have a big gathering in Marrakech, Morocco, about climate change. And at the moment I'm actually in Fes in Morocco, just finishing with the Summit of Conscience, talking with many religious leaders on our responsibility in protecting the earth. So without further ado, I would like to introduce my speakers today. First of all is Imam Zaid Shakir, who is the co-founder of Zaytuna College in Berkeley, California. And Imam Zaid also is named as one of America's most influential scholars. He's listed among the 500 most influential Muslim in the world. And he's been talking about race and poverty and other, social issues. And Imam Zaid is is also known as Green Imam and has been very supportive with a lot of our work so far in this movement. And he was a key person during the People's Climate March in New York 2 years ago. And he's wrote a lot of books and also co-founded a lot of mosques around the US. And another speakers that will be speaking tonight is Imam Saffet Catovic. He's a Bosnian Anglo descendant who lives in New Jersey. He's the founder of New Jersey Green Muslim. And he's also a Green Faith Fellow and very active in trying to mainstream this issue, the green issues and awareness of climate change towards Muslim community in the United States, and he's part of the committee of the Green Mosque, which is under Islamic Society of North America, and he was the one of the drafting members of the Islamic Declaration on Global Climate Change last year in Istanbul. So I welcome the both speakers tonight. Oh, walaikum assalam, Imam Zaid, welcome. I was just giving an introduction about you and about the summit.
Yeah,
okay.
I was listening, alhamdulillah.
Okay, so without further ado, probably I'll give a little bit background. So like mostly if a lot of you are aware of the Muslim, activism on the Green Movement, we usually use these two hadiths that very famous that we've been using most of the time. First is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Indeed, the world is green and sweet." So the word green that makes us think that how the world is supposed to be, how the earth is supposed to be. And also there's like another important thing that we need to remember, that our Prophet, peace be upon him, said that people have common things to share, which is three things: the grass, which is vegetation for humanity and animal, and the water and the fire. Fire in this case could be light, heat, and power. So if we're talking about power, we are talking about most of what we use is electricity and transportation. And we know that most of our power and energy at the moment are based on fossil fuels, and but we have to move forward from that, because what's happening in the world today is there's a lot of scientific studies already done. So as a people of faith, as a Muslim, we need to be true to our teaching. So I would like to invite Imam Zaid Shakir to give us address this teaching from the Islamic perspective in terms of the Sharia, and which is the Islamic law, and also the maqasid of Sharia, which is the purpose of that law itself. Please, tafaddal, Imam Zaid.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidil Muslimin, Sayyidil Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I think to start, it's very important for us to recognize that Sharia is all about life. It's about life in this world, and it's about life in the hereafter. And it's about living a good life. It's about goodness. And Allah has ordained beautification, beautifying, and goodness in all things. And so the Sharia is a source of beauty. And when we saw Muslim civilizations, we saw beauty. We saw cities that were designed in ecologically friendly ways, bringing water from the snowmelt down from the mountains to irrigate and to just provide the sound, the soothing sound of water running through the residential quarters of cities. We saw gardens, both inside of people's houses, and beautiful gardens in public spaces and places. We saw cities that were designed with parks, and designed with trees, and designed, as we said, with gardens. We saw flowers adorning people's homes, adorning the cities, adorning the public places. So the Sharia is about beauty, and it's about positive benefits. So the scholars of Sharia, they say at the end of the day, it's about two things: جلب المنفعة ودرء المفاسد. To bring those things and secure those things that are beneficial, and to ward off those things which are corrupting. That's the essence of the Sharia if you look at the rulings. And as we know, amongst the most beneficial things in this world, first of all, is our water. As Allah Ta'ala reminds us in the Quran, وَجَعَلْنَا مِنَ الْمَاءِ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ حَيٍّ. And one of the sad conditions of our times rather, is that this most abundant resource is being systematically destroyed. The aquifers here in California, in some areas, the land is actually sinking in the Central Valley. Some places 10 feet because of the drought, and then straining the aquifers so that they literally collapse to grow, in many instances, water-thirsty crops like walnuts and almonds. And why? Because they have a high return. They have a high return. The almonds become almond milk. The walnuts become snacks. They have a high return, but if those trees aren't irrigated year-round, so it's not like growing a crop like lettuce. Once you harvest the lettuce, that's it for the plant. You're eating the plant. To irrigate. And so what happened here? And I think this is indicative.
Oh, we got Imam Zaid disconnected.
Nana, we seem to have lost Imam Zaid. I'm working to see if there's anything I can do, but I'm not. I'm not able to find it. Brother Saffet, can you hear us?
Brother Saffet, can you hear us?
Everybody, hold with us for just a moment, if you will.
Assalamu alaikum.
Oh, wa alaikum assalam. You're back. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah. Anyway, so I was saying that I think what's happening here in California is indicative of the problem that is, it's man-made because of greed. And so that captures the heart of the issues driving climate change, man-made intrusion into the natural environment motivated by greed. So here, the aquifers are being drained dry. Hedge fund managers and others with filthy amounts of money on their hand are buying up land, and then they're planting crops that have a high profitability, like walnuts and almonds, but they're water thirsty because that almond tree, even after you harvest the almonds, you have to irrigate it year round or it'll burn up and dry up out here in the heat. So you have to water it here. Those thousands of acres have to be watered year round or the trees will dry up and they'll be barren. Something like lettuce, once you harvest the crop, the irrigation is done because you're eating the lettuce and that's it for the plant itself. So the groundwaters are drying up. Because the rains have been scarce and the temperature rise, we had healthy rain for the last 2 weeks, alhamdulillah. But there's no snow in the mountain because it's so hot, it's so warm that normally when the kind of rain we got this early in the rainy season will result in snow in the higher elevation, but it was raining up there. And so the aquifers are being sucked dry and then they're collapsing. And once the aquifer collapses, once those underground caverns that hold the water, once they collapse, you don't have an aquifer anymore. That water can no longer have space to accumulate and build up and create those underground seas and those underground lakes. The snow cap is disappearing. because the rise in temperature, even when the precipitation comes, it comes in the form of rain increasingly. Early in the rainy season and late in the season, when in past times it will be snowing, it's raining, which means the water runs off immediately. And if the rain is moderate, it doesn't accumulate enough to build up the streams and rivers and creeks that feed the reservoirs. It's absorbed into the earth. Whereas when it piles up as snow, even if it's 2 inches, 3, 4, 5 inches over the course of the winter, in some areas you end up with 60, 70, 80 inches of snow. And then that massive amount melts throughout the late spring and early summer. It provides water for irrigation. It replenishes the reservoirs. So this whole cycle we see is being disrupted. And as a result, the good, the benefit for people, for animals, for plants is rapidly disappearing. The fire season is longer and more destructive, etc. So the benefit that the Sharia intends Jazd al-Manfa, those benefits are being lost, and increasingly, because of these natural imbalances, Dar al-Mafasid, our ability to repulse the harmful things, increases. So I think it behooves us to really look at what our religion aims towards, and then consider in that light, bringing benefit, repulsing harm, getting to a deeper level of specificity, the maqasid of the Sharia. And those maqasid, حفظ الدين والحياة والنسل والعقل والمال, none of those can be attained if our planet is ravaged and destroyed. They're predicated on a balanced ecosystem. As Allah Ta'ala reminds us in the Quran, that وَقِيمُوا الْوَزْنَ بِالْقِسْطِ وَلَا تُخْسِرُوا الْمِيزَانِ. Weigh and measure with justice, don't interrupt the balance. So Allah says He's established a balance. أَلَا تَطْغَوْا فِي الْمِيزَانِ. Don't disrupt that balance. Don't harm that balance. And again, climate change is a disruption of the balance. And it's a disruption, though, that's caused by human activity. There are those critics who say, oh, the earth always has cycles of warming and cooling. That's indeed true, but these cycles have unfolded over the course, in some instances, thousands of years. So the environment had time to slowly adapt to the changing conditions and what would eventually become the new conditions. There's a beautiful book someone sent me this week, The Hidden Life of Trees. And in it, one of the things the author talks about, Peter Wolleben, one of the things he talks about is how in both the advent of an ice age and then the receding of an ice age, how trees actually migrate hundreds of miles south as the ice age encroaches, and then hundreds of miles north as it recedes. And this natural cycle, though, it takes time, and it takes thousands of years. So these cycles have always happened. Now, the changes that formerly took 10,000 years to occur are happening within 2 or 3 years because of human intervention into the environment. So this argument is very spurious, that, oh, there's always been cycles and changes and this is just another cycle. No, this is an anomaly. It's anomalous, rather. It's anomalous, abnormal. And the abnormality is rooted in human.
Well, we lost Imam Zaid again, so we'll just bear with us. Hope that he will reconnect.
Nana, what I'm wondering, I'll work on trying to get Imam Zaid back. Imam Saffet, we can see you, and I think you can see us. Can you try speaking to make sure we can hear you? No, we're not hearing you, Imam Saffet. We can see you, but we can't hear you.
Yeah, I've dropped off again. But to just summarize, if I may, I just want to say this unnatural intervention is driven by an economic system that places and prioritizes profit and financial gain, short-term gain, over the long-term interest of humanity and the long-term interest of this planet. And we have to begin to introduce a new set of values, because at the end of the day, that system is undergirded by a set of values. And those values include greed, those values include not considering the interest of future generations. We know about the policy of the Iroquois and other native tribes who had a policy of considering the implications of anything they did, any policy that they adopted, any measures that they were going to take. They would consider the implications of those for 7 generations. How would this affect not just my children or my grandchildren, but all the way into the future for 7 generations? If we can project that the impact will be negative, we're not going to do this thing. And I think that is the kind of ethos that Islam considers, because when we talk about the various hadith and Quranic verses that we can bring forth or usher to support our enthusiasm for proper environmental stewardship, there's one that you seldom hear, but I'm going to introduce it right now for the benefit of those who are listening to this discussion. And it's the following: لَيْسَ مِنَّا مَنْ لَا يَرْحَمْ صَغِيرَنَا وَلَا يَعْرِفْ قَدْرَ كَبِيرِنَا. He or she is not amongst us. لَيْسَ مِنَّا, one who is not merciful to our youngsters. And it's the epitome of mercilessness to our future generations that we leave them a world, an environment, a planet that's so polluted, that's so overdeveloped, that's so unnaturally developed that it can't support life anymore. We recently heard the World Wildlife Federation released their report that 67% of current mammal species and numbers are going to be disappear as soon as 2020. That 90 due to overfishing of our oceans, that 90% of our fish stocks will be gone as early as 2020. 90% total collapses of many of these resources that were most so abundant that it was unimaginable to think that they would be gone, that they would disappear. But this is actually happening, brothers and sisters, and it's happening due to our greed, it's happening due to our short-sightedness, it's happening due to our lack of mercy for and consideration for our future generations. So it's imperative right now that we put the brakes on, not tomorrow, not next week, not next year, right now. So before turning the mic back to our dear sister and one of our heroes in terms of environmental activism and stewardship, Sister Nana, I'd like to just mention the following. ظهر الفساد, Allah tells us, Surah Ar-Rum, ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعد الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون. That corruption has appeared on land and sea based on what the hands of humans have wrought. Thus do we give them a taste of the consequences of their actions, that perhaps they will return to the path of right guidance. I mention this not because it's something sometimes mentioned in the context we're speaking. I mention this to mention one of the commentaries on this verse by Ibn Abbas, radiyallahu anhuma. Ibn Abbas said that one of the meanings of Zahr al-Fasad, al-Bahr, in the ocean, is that the oceans would discontinuing to yield their produce. The fish would disappear. The fish would disappear. What clear sign do we need that it's time for us to return to the path of right guidance, the path of right guidance, a path that respects faith? Because a lot of what's happening is because of our rebelliousness. The front cover of Time magazine this week, youth anxiety. What's one of the leading causes of that anxiety? Atheism, no belief, no faith. So faith provides a shield that protects us from the vicissitudes of life. You take that shield away, you're going to have massive anxiety. You're going to have massive depression. Life itself, protecting life. If our environment is ravaged, we can't protect life. And if we can't protect life, we can't protect our families. If there are no fish, if there's no food. And these are realities. If we can't harvest and we can't plant, as the temperature gradually increases, more and more areas that are currently productive agricultural lands are rendered barren and unproductive. And so then our wealth, our wealth all is rooted in what we take from the land. So if we're not judicious in how we manage land and how we manage the resources, if we're not judicious in terms of understanding some areas have to be off limits, some marshes and watershed areas, forests, virgin forests, and and so critical in the production of oxygen, something fundamental to our life on this planet, so critical in absorbing carbon dioxide, rather, one of the leading, if not the leading CO2 gas or global warming gas. Methane, it says 20 times more potent, but methane dissipates rapidly in the air. Carbon dioxide stays around for a long time. And if there are no trees to absorb it, and then in turn to give out oxygen, we're on a slippery slope to our ruin and to our destruction. So may Allah bless us to heed the sign. So Ibn Abbas says this fasad, Zahr al-Fasad, this corruption, fil barri wal bahri, in the land and sea, is to see the animals and the fish disappearing. So so this is the taste of, literally the taste. Look at the wisdom of the Quran. We're not going to be tasting fish. We're not going to be tasting yellowfin tuna.
Nana, we've lost Imam Zaid audio again, and I'm working to get Imam Saffet in also.
Okay, is Brother Saffet in?
Imam Saffet, can you hear us?
Can you hear us?
You can't hear on the computer.
Imam Saffet, I believe that we can hear your daughter speaking as she's speaking.
Yes.
There. Can you?
Can you hear us?
We can see you're trying to speak, Imam Saffet, but we can't.
Can you hear us, Imam Saffet?
So, Sister Nana, what I would suggest is that perhaps I'll continue to try to work with the technology, but perhaps you could we could entertain questions from the audience. I'll see. What I'm going to do now is try unmuting our participants. Please, if you're in a location where you are, where there's some background noise, please mute your phone or your computer so that everybody can hear clearly. But I'm going to unmute people, and if you have a question that you'd like to pose, please do so, and we will look forward to hearing from you. So you should be unmuted. Does anybody have a question that they'd like to pose?
Please mention your name and where you're from. Does anybody have any question?
Saffet here.
Oh, Brother Saffet, you're already on now. Okay.
Assalamualaikum.
Okay. Assalamualaikum. Walaikum salam. So, if we don't have any question, probably I would like to invite Brother Saffet to move forward to our webinar today. So, Brother Saffet, tafaddal.
Jazakallah khairan, thank you. And thank you, Imam Zaid, very, very much for your presentation and for sharing with us. What I'd like to do is go quickly through some of the slides that we have. And inshallah, after that, we'll be able to go to some of the concluding slides. I apologize for the technical difficulty. We have 3 different folks, 4 different brothers and sisters in 3 different nations. We're trying to reach out to each other and to all of you that are listening. Basically, the idea of the ayah, this Surah Al-An'am 165, is that human beings, not exclusive to any religious community, have been made as the khulafa. Khulafa, as Imam Zaid mentioned, it means caretaker. Those who have succeeded those who came in before them and have the responsibility to utilize the gifts and the special abilities, the intellect, the reason, and the ability to manipulate one's environment, immediate environment and situation in keeping with the directives of the Creator. So, next slide. This is an amana and a trust. The concept of amana in Islam is something very, very broad and comprehensive. It is inclusive of one's own physical being. It is inclusive of the physical environment in which one lives. It is inclusive of the relationship with which one shares and is connected to, both human and non-human. And like any trust, it must be honored and returned to the one who originally originated the trust, and that is the Creator. You can go to the next slide. It goes without saying, and it has been already said, that our society, meaning human society, society that is not unique to the societies on this world and in this planet, is encountering numerous environmental problems. The Secretary General of the United Nations mentioned recently, Ban Ki-moon, that these risks and these disasters that are connected to the environmental problems are concentrated in the developing and middle income countries, and they are due to climate change. We can go to the next slide, please. Climate change impacts are reaching the boundary line. the point from which there is no return. Scientists increasingly are telling us that the initial projections of the temperature increasing to 2 degrees Celsius is slightly off. 1.5 degrees Celsius is becoming the point, if you look at the bottom line on this graph, where major changes to the environment and the climate and the physical systems of this planet will not be able to be turned back. Next slide, please. Disasters worldwide are on the increase, both in terms of frequency and intensity. And these disasters, natural disasters, are driven, as Imam Zaid had mentioned previously, as a result of the disruption of the balance, the mizan. You can go to the next slide, please. Muslim population throughout the world, located primarily in the global south, is on the front line of the climate change driven disasters and geographical havoc that is taking place. Next slide, please. 1400 years ago, the Quran pointed out clearly as who would be responsible for this type of situation. ظهر فساد في الأرض البر والبحر والبحر بما كسب أيدي الناس. That corruption has appeared on the land and the sea for the reason of what the hands of man have wrought. In the modern terminology, they're saying these are anthropogenic causes. And the corruption that is mentioned here can be stood as not just a moral corrupt, but a pollution of the earth. Next slide, please. Thank you. Imam Zaid already spoke about maintaining the balance, and that the disruption of the balance needs to be restored. Next slide, please. It is not sufficient to restore the balance, to practice the ethic of conservation and restraint, and to avoid wastefulness. Gluttony used to be a sin, as one of the major sins, cardinal sins in other faith traditions. The issue of gluttony also is something that exists within the Islamic teachings as a major sin. In fact, in this verse in the Holy Quran, God, Allah Almighty, equates those who waste with the devils. To waste is to be Satan. So the idea of eating, of drinking, of enjoying, that's of course non-alcoholic beverages for a Muslim, must be done kulu washrabu wala without wasting. فإن الله لا يحب المسرفين. God does not love those who waste. But this by itself is not enough to restore the balance. The ethic of restraint and conservation is necessary, as my engineering friends tell me, but not sufficient. So we move on to the next slide. Similarly, saving of energy, which is a good thing, moving away from energy-consuming vehicles through hybrids and electric cars is definitely a positive change, and it is reflective that the sales of these vehicles are increasing, that the consciousness, the awareness of fossil fuel burning and the resulting gases, especially carbon dioxide, is something that we as human beings have to move back from. But once again, while this is necessary and it is good and needs to be encouraged, it is not sufficient to restore the balance. Next slide, please. Planting of trees and reversing the deforestation that is taking place worldwide needs to be also continued. In fact, you can say that the planting of trees is the only surefire way, and excuse my pun, to sequester and capture carbon from the atmosphere, and to transform that through the divinely established process of photosynthesis into usable forms of energy for human beings and for other creatures. And so definitely policies of reforestation, policies and implementation of actions that result with the reforestation of areas that have been laid barren and waste because of the abuse of certain organizations, corporations who have, without regard for the future, destroyed the trees which provide us the very air that we breathe. Once again,
Alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, Imam Zaid.
Yeah, I think yeah, I got cut off 4 times now. I think I just listen at this point.
Yeah. Yes. Brother Saffet is explaining some of his.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, Brother Saffet, can you continue?
Imam, I'm afraid that Imam Zaid and Brother Saffet have the same line, so that when Imam Zaid is on, Brother Saffet is kicked off, and vice versa. And so I'm afraid I'm afraid that there's because the same number was shared with them both, evidently. So
okay, let me. I'll get off right now so Saffet can share, and then just send me a text message when it's time to come back on and show. All right, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Okay, Brother Saffet, can you continue now? Okay.
Yes, you're back.
Thank you, Imam Zaid. And I will quickly finish up so he can come from questions and answers at the end. Next slide, please. Activities to green our religious communities, specifically mentioning the Green Masjid Project, and activities like that Muslims have engaged around worldwide, like the Green Ramadan projects, Greening Our Ramadan, are all noble acts in which Muslims try to adopt the prophetic model of an ecological friendly lifestyle. By the food that we eat, by our consumption practices, by the energy that we use, and ensuring that in all of these areas, conservation and the ethic of restraint are foremost. But once again, while necessary, they are not sufficient. Next slide, please. And here we have the verse in the Holy Quran, which gives an indication of what is sufficient. Allah commands those who are servants of the merciful to walk upon the earth softly. The scholars of tafsir, of religious exegesis, tell us that walking softly on the earth was exemplified by the Prophet. And he was the walking Quran. His manner of walking was to place his feet firmly on the earth, to tread where those who have tread before him went, and not to penetrate or disrupt the earth. A more green ecological reading of this verse is not to cause harm to the earth. And this includes reduction of our carbon footprint. That is the result of burning of fossil fuels. It is part of the rahmah, the mercy, to adhere to this principle of not causing harm to one another. Next slide, please. International Islamic Climate Declaration. This was a brainchild of Hajj Fazl and Khalid going back quite a few years. And alhamdulillah, through the different work and efforts, great efforts of various NGOs and individuals, including our sister Nana Firman, who was on the ground, and you see her pictured in this show, in this picture, that they were able to come together, Muslims, scholars, Muslim activists, representatives from over 20 different countries, and to develop clear language articulating Islam's position with regard to climate change and the environment. Specifically, you can go to the next slide. The Islamic Climate Declaration and those who authored it call for the limit of global warming to pre-industrial levels of at least 1.5 degrees. And this is through the reduction of fossil fuel burning. What we're finding, though, is that it is not sufficient to reduce the fossil fuel burning if the oil still keeps coming into the pipeline. And so, a next step in this process, in order to move towards what the Climate Change Declaration calls for, which is the rapid phase out of fossil fuel and a switch to 100% renewable energy, especially by the major greenhouse emitters. And we speak about the geopolitical global north, as well as China. In order for this to take place, there needs to be the maintaining of levels of the reserves in the ground. Scientists are telling us that 50 to 75% of the current reserves in the ground of fossil fuels need to remain there in order for us to meet this requirement that is now increasingly universally agreed to. The temperature of the earth should not exceed 1.5 degrees Celsius. Go to the next slide, please. And then I will sort of step out. And Sister Nana, who is a co-chair and coordinator of the Global Muslim Climate Network, will be able to speak to the next couple slides. Thank you for your patience.
Yeah.
I apologize again for the technological difficulties and if there's any problem with the voice.
Okay, Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, Brother Saffet. So I just want to add up on that. So following the declaration from Istanbul last year, this year on April 22nd, we launched the Global Muslim Climate Network. And at the official hand-in of the Islamic Declaration to the President of General Assembly of the United Nations at that time. So this new network is very crucial, not only to consider plan work, but also how to approach this. And it is critical that we have this Global Muslim Climate Network, or GMCN, to build as a platform through the network to sharing information and strong coordination between the Muslim countries and communities. So GMCN will have the role as a platform and facilitator for collaboration, cooperation, and also sharing, and also help each other for all Muslim communities around the world, and also how this platform can be also reach out to people of other faiths so that we can collaborate to work together on the ground. Next slide, please. So what's on the pipeline? As I mentioned earlier, that next week there are going to be a COP22 Convention of Parties in Marrakech, Morocco, and where GMCN is also going to be part of it. And we have a few calls for next week event in Marrakech. First is we call the Muslim countries and community to transition from fossil fuel based energy to clean energy, and also to increase renewable energy on their energy mix in each national country, and also to maintain to mainstream the 100% renewable energy vision. I know that it is not possible right now, but like we want to have this vision and to encourage, like, first of all, mosque to go renewable at a scale and rapidly. So this is possible because Morocco just made a commitment to put all their mosques for 100 renewable energy by 2019, and I heard it again today that it is a commitment of the government in Morocco. And also this is like Brother Saffet said earlier, to ensure the justness in achieving the 1.5 degrees Celsius temperature limit. So another thing, in order for us to do all these changes, like Imam Zaid mentioned, that we have to change the system. So what we are hoping to discuss also the shift of financial flows from the dirty energy to sustainable and clean energy by including enabling the Islamic finance model into the process of the transformation. So those are our calls for the this upcoming COP in Marrakech. So these are just some example that some of Muslim majority nations already put forward on this, and at the moment Morocco is one of the leading country on producing clean energy. Morocco as a country is actually very committed in having this solar power plant, taking the leadership in the world. Next. So Brother Saffet, are you still on?
Here we switch back. We couldn't both be on at the same time.
It's Brother Saffet on. Brother
No,
Saffet,
Imam Zaid, no.
or Imam Zaid?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just.
We both couldn't be on at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So probably I'm just going to mention the step forward that we're hoping for this divestment, that we're going to ask to be like as the consideration if we want to move forward and change our condition is, first of all, to discuss and define what is the moral values that guide your financial decision. For example, what sort of investment that is that that our putting forward? Are we putting like our investment in coal or tar and oil or oil and gas, which we know like there is an implication on that? And also like how can we confirm our fund managers to actually change that onto like more clean energy? And another thing is to assess our holdings and identify and clean energy opportunities. There's a lot of technologies already available right now in the world, and we have to, you know, like work on it and to move forward. And perhaps we can start by implementing a 5-year plan and also like report to our stakeholders. Next. So I think we're almost at the end of the slides. So I just want to make the close summarize that Islamic environmentalism is a great opportunity to achieve those as on the global scale, and it is embedded in the matrix of Islamic teaching itself. And the Quran itself is inherently conservationist. So are its teaching and financial instrument that build upon them. So we're hoping that, you know, we can, as Muslim communities in the global world, we can also contribute for this transformation toward a better and cleaner world. So Ameen. Thank you for all the attention from the participants. Sorry for all the technical problems, but I'm not sure if we have time for a Q&A. Reverend Fletcher, are you there?
I am, yes, and there are perhaps just a couple of questions. If I read the questions out, perhaps Sister Nana, you or Imam Zaid might be able to respond. Would that be okay if we spend another few minutes for that?
Yes, please.
Yes.
So a couple of people sent in questions about the reaction in different parts of the Muslim world to the Islamic Global Climate Change Declaration. Has there been enthusiasm in certain quarters? Has there been concern expressed from certain quarters? What sorts of reactions have you seen, and what sorts of reactions would you anticipate?
I think everyone who's learned of it is very enthusiastic. It's just a question of introducing it to more people. But as people learn about it, there's a very, very enthusiastic response. And I think that response is both at the grassroots level and also at the governmental level. So we see the initiative of the Moroccan government, but also the government of Mauritania is also on the path to becoming solar energy positive in the sense that the majority of their energy will be generated by solar, and they're already putting the infrastructure in place for that. So I think there's been a tremendous reception, and it's just a question of letting more people know, finding the means through social media and other means to just get the word out to people. And it resonates, immediately it resonates because of the teachings of the religion and they're not so such rarefied or highly sophisticated teachings that they don't resonate with just the ordinary rank and file of Muslims out there. They're very simple, straightforward, based on well-known verses in the Quran and well-known prophetic traditions. So I'll say that and turn it over to Nana for any further comments.
So I can add up a little bit from Imam Zaid's comment. So this is where the Global Muslim Climate Network will be playing its role. So we're hoping through this new network that we will be the platform and also like the facilitator of all different Muslim nations and communities to work together and learn from each other and inspire each other also to have this new initiatives and to move forward, like to have to make the betterment for our planet.
Alhamdulillah.
Perhaps one final question was if either of you have seen or heard of any stories from different parts of the Muslim world where there are communities taking action. People we got a lot of comments from people very excited about the statement and eager to know and hear about stories where people are putting these teachings into action.
Yeah, so I can answer on that. So after the declaration, there's a lot of reaction from the Muslim communities around the world. Very excited, and some communities already take it forward. They have taken forward on the implementation or having initiatives and programs. So, for example, I'm from in Indonesia, we initiated a Green Hajj program. So we already tried the pilot from the pilgrims last pilgrimage on trying to have an apps for the Green Hajj for a few groups of the pilgrims to actually apply it when they did their pilgrimage to Mecca. So hopefully in the COP22 in Marrakech, we can launch that as the call also for other Muslim nations to adapt within their community, and as well as their capacity of their different part of the world to actually apply this Green Hajj to promote and also to adopt to their pilgrimage to Mecca.
Alhamdulillah.
Well, we're about 5 minutes after the hour, and we want to be respectful of everyone's time. Sister Nana, thank you so much for your gracious hosting of this event. We're so appreciative of your work, and to Imam Zaid and to Imam Saffet, many thanks to both of you for all of your leadership and the ways in which you've provided such important teaching for the Muslim community, and frankly been such a good example and an important example to the interfaith community. We're deeply grateful for that, and look forward to continuing to collaborate with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you. Wa alaikum assalam.